The object had no wings, no exhaust plume, and no flight surfaces. It accelerated from a near hover to beyond radar range in under a second, and the US Navy put that on the record. Welcome to the science of the unexplained. I want to take you on a journey through the most rigorously documented UAP encounter in American military history. November 14th, 2004, 60 miles off the coast of San Diego. Altitude 28,000 feet. Commander David Fravor banks his F/A-18F and looks down. The Pacific is disturbed, white water churning in an oval pattern roughly the size of a 737, as if something large is just beneath the surface, and above that disturbance, a white object. No wings, no tail, no exhaust, roughly 40 feet long, shaped like a tic-tac breath mint, hovering and oscillating above the churn. Fravor begins a circular descent to intercept. The object mirrors him, matches his arc, cuts toward him, then vanishes, not fast, instantly. The question is not what he believed he saw, the question is what the instruments recorded. The USS Nimitz Carrier Strike Group was conducting routine training exercises in the Pacific when the encounter occurred, but nothing about the 2 weeks preceding it was routine. The USS Princeton, a Ticonderoga-class guided missile cruiser operating as the group's air defense command ship, had been tracking unidentified contacts on its SPY-1 radar since November 10th. 4 days of anomalous returns, according to Senior Chief Operations Specialist Kevin Day, who stated in a signed declaration obtained by researcher James Lakatsky that the objects appeared at 80,000 feet and dropped to 20,000 feet in under a second, with no sonic boom, no heat signature, no transponder signal. Day described tracking as many as 10 objects simultaneously. The radar operators initially assumed equipment malfunction. Engineers checked the system. It was functioning correctly, so on November 14th, Princeton's operations officer directed 2 F/A-18F Super Hornets to investigate a contact. Commander Fravor piloted one jet. His wingman, Lieutenant Commander Jim Slight, piloted the second, with Lieutenants Alex Dietrich and his own weapons systems officer observing from their respective back seats. 4 credentialed military aviators in 2 aircraft converging on the same point. What were 4 naval flight officers, collectively carrying decades of flight experience, about to see? Fravor and Slight arrived at the designated intercept point at approximately 2 p.m. local time. Below them, the ocean surface was visibly disturbed. White water, calm surrounding seas, no obvious source. Lieutenant Commander Dietrich, flying with Slight, later described the object in her own signed account as appearing to be uniformly white, smooth, with no edges, and moving like a ping-pong ball, erratically, unpredictably, without the inertial behavior any known aircraft would display under maneuvering loads. Fravor began a left-hand descending spiral toward the object, the standard intercept geometry taught at the Naval Strike and Air Warfare Center. As he descended, the object climbed to meet him, tracking his position. He estimated it was approximately half a mile away when it accelerated south and disappeared. The entire visual engagement lasted approximately 5 minutes, according to Fravor's 2019 New York Times interview and his 2023 testimony before the House Subcommittee on National Security. Princeton immediately vectored a second section of F/A-18S, equipped with the AN/ASQ-228 Advanced Targeting Forward-Looking Infrared Pod, the ATF-LIR system, to the reported position. The ATF-LIR operator captured what became known as the tic-tac video, a white oblong object tracked against a dark sky locked by infrared, then abruptly rotating and accelerating out of frame. The video, along with 2 others, designated FLIR-1, Gimbal, and Go Fast, was officially released by the U.S. Department of Defense in April 2020 after years of unauthorized circulation. In its release statement, The DoD confirmed the footage was taken by U.S. Navy pilots and had not been cleared for public release previously, and that the objects were unidentified. What no official statement has provided to this day is a prosaic explanation for what the AT-FLIR locked onto and why it moved the way it did. The Nimitz encounter became the primary case study in the US government's renewed institutional engagement with UAP, and it exposed just how contested the analysis remains even among qualified investigators. The Pentagon's Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, or AATIP, which operated from 2007 to 2012 under a classified budget secured by Senator Harry Reid, produced technical reports on the Nimitz case that remain partially classified. What is unclassified is that AATIP existed, that it examined this encounter, and that its former director Luis Elizondo testified to the Senate Armed Services Committee in 2017 that the program found objects exhibiting what he characterized as hypersonic velocities with no thermal exhaust and instantaneous acceleration. Elizondo is a named witness and former government official, but his claims about what AATIP concluded remain contested because the full program outputs have not been declassified. The more rigorous public analysis begins with the Nimitz AT-FLIR footage itself. Mick West, a science writer and analyst at Metabunk, published a detailed geometric analysis arguing that the object's apparent acceleration in the FLIR-1 footage is consistent with the camera's field of view rotating, not the object itself moving at anomalous speed, a function of the AT-FLIR's gimbal behavior. His analysis, published in 2019, is methodologically transparent and peer-reviewed by other analysts in the open-source community. It accounts for the video behavior. It does not account for what the Princeton's Spy-1 radar recorded during the 2-week period, or for the physical ocean disturbance Freya, Dietrich, and Slight, all independently described beneath the object. The All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, established by the National Defense Authorization Act in 2022, issued its first unclassified annual report in 2023. That report acknowledged a body of cases including historical Navy encounters that remain unresolved and identified sensor artifacts and limited data quality as persistent obstacles to definitive analysis. AARO did not classify the Nimitz case as explained. Astrophysicist Dr. Kevin Knuth, formerly of NASA's Ames Research Center, co-authored a 2019 paper in the peer-reviewed journal Entropy titled Estimating Flight Characteristics of Anomalous Unidentified Aerial Vehicles, applying kinematic analysis to the Nimitz encounter data as reported by named witnesses. Knuth and co-authors Robert Powell and Peter Reilly calculated implied accelerations that, if the witness reports are taken as accurate measurements, would exceed 5,000 g beyond any known propulsion system and beyond any biological tolerance. The critical qualifier is if accurate. No black box instrument data from Fravor's aircraft has been released. The Spy-1 radar logs from the Princeton have not been made public. The evidentiary flaw is genuine but incomplete, and that gap is precisely where the scientific disagreement lives. What changed between the hook and here is not the mystery, it's the resolution of who is making the claims and on what basis. This is not anonymous testimony or grainy camcorder footage. It is 4 named naval flight officers, an operational radar system with a logged anomaly window, ATFLI air gun camera footage officially authenticated by the Department of Defense, and an active government office, AARO, that has reviewed the case and declined to close it. What Mick West's analysis established is that video alone cannot carry the evidentiary weight this case has been asked to bear. What Kevin Knuth's kinematic paper established is that if the witness measurements are even partially accurate, the flight envelope implied has no engineering precedent in public domain. What AARO's 2023 report established is that the US government is institutionally unwilling to call this case solved. The genuinely open question is not whether something anomalous occurred on November 14, 2004. The open question is this: the Princeton's Spy-1 radar tracked contacts for 2 weeks, and those logs exist somewhere in a classified database. What would change in this analysis if those raw radar files were ever released? The next case we investigate involves a government that did release its files, and the conclusions their scientists reached were not what anyone expected.